We're now going through all the playoff matchups in the first round of the playoffs. I already did a video looking at the North Bay Battalion versus the Kingston Frontenacs. Now it's off to the Mississauga Steelheads and the Sudbury Wolves. This is the 4-5 matchup, and it's a little surprising that we're seeing the Sudbury Wolves in the fifth spot. Coming into the year, such high expectations for this hockey club. They were sitting first place in the Central Division for quite a while, and then tailed off, and there was the off-ice drama involving the Barrie Colts, and there's been injuries, suspensions, and this is where we are. The Sudbury Wolves in the fifth spot kind of has a similar feeling to what we saw in 2014. That was another Sudbury Wolves team that bought at the OHL trade deadline, brought in key pieces. They were near the top of the division, and then in the final stretch fell off, finishing fifth. And in that year, they lost in the first round to the Barrie Colts in 5. So we'll see what happens this time around. This time playing the Mississauga Steelheads. And to note, this is the final playoff run of OHL hockey in the city of Mississauga as the Steelheads next year move to Brampton as we get ready to start talking about the Brampton Steelheads starting for the 2024-25 season. But let's focus on this series. Coming into this one, both teams have a record of 3-2-1 against one another. These two Central Division rivals, they know each other well. There's been a few games that were very high scoring as the Sudbury Wolves offense, it is lethal. We'll get to that a little later on, but let's look at the last 10 for these two teams. Mississauga over their last 10 games, 8-1-1. They have been red hot. Their last loss was the last game of the regular season at home against the North Bay Battalion. That was a close game as well. Final score of that one was 4-3. So this is a really good Mississauga team that battled hard to get back into the home ice picture. And they're playing a Sudbury Wolves team that over their last 10, 4-5-1. So kind of average. But if you look at their two wins against Barrie and Niagara Friday night and Saturday night, they outscored their opponents 22-6. They took care of the competition in those games, and it all went down to the wire against Oshawa last night, but they kind of ran out of momentum against a red-hot Generals team, because if Sudbury would have won that game, they could have finished third in the Eastern Conference, but if they would have got a point, they would have finished fourth, but instead, they're sitting fifth. So let's look at the numbers comparing these two teams. Let's start with the goals for category. It's not even close. The Sudbury Wolves goal for this year, 328 to Mississauga's 248. On the goals against, though, Mississauga has quite the advantage. They have a goals against of 212. Sudbury is allowed 272 goals. So it's kind of been a situation where they try to outscore their problems. They did bring on Drake Barahowski at the end of the season as an advisor for the defense for the Sudbury Wolves team. Drake Barahowski, of course, a former Toronto Maple Leaf. He was also on the bench with the Sudbury Wolves once upon a time. So this is a step, I think, to try and get the defense working. And we'll see if that will be a positive or not. Is it too late to bring Drake Barahowski in? Time will tell. This is a fan base that has been hungry for a deep playoff run. They haven't been to the OHL final since 2007. This team well overdue for a long playoff run, but it's not going to be easy against this Mississauga Steelheads team. Looking at the power play, though, the Sudbury Wolves, they do have a really good power play unit, 25.2%. Mississauga, the power play unit, 21.3%. On the penalty kill, though, Mississauga has the advantage, 81.3% to Sudbury's 78.3%. And this Mississauga team, they do take a lot of penalties. At one point, it was between Mississauga and London as the most penalized teams in the OHL. Sudbury, not far either in the penalty minutes category. So this could be a pretty chippy series based on what these teams have been able to do during the regular season. Looking at the top scorers, David Goyette leads the way for the Sudbury Wolves. He's the league leader in points, 40 goals, 77 assists, good for 117 points. Quentin Musty came in second in scoring, 43 goals, 59 assists, 102 points. And then you have Dalibor Dvorsky. He joined the Sudbury Wolves late after being sent down by the St. Louis Blues, and he was outstanding. 45 goals, 43 assists, 88 points. You have Kochadelic. He had 30 goals on the season to go along with 34 points, 34 assists, 64 points. And then Landon McCallum, I was a little surprised seeing him in that fifth spot in points. 21 goals, 38 assists, good for 59 points. McCallum, a bit of a character role. He's not afraid to mix it up. He's sometimes a bit of a liability when taking penalties, but he's that kind of guy that you don't want to play against. And I think Sudbury Wolf fans, they love Landon McCallum's style. They'd like to see fewer penalties, but he can get under the skin of the opponent, which you kind of need in the playoffs. For goaltending, this has been a big question mark for the Sudbury Wolves. Jakob Vondras, he has a goals against average of 3.81, a save percentage of 859. He played last night against the Oshawa Generals. I would expect Vondras to get the start in game 1 Thursday night at the Paramount Fine Food Center, but you can't count out the other two. And I'm really surprised they don't play Nate Krawchuk more because he has the best stats out of the 3 goaltenders. When you look at his numbers, Nate Krawchuk, he has a 3.25 goals against average and an 876 save percentage. Those numbers, they're not that exciting, but they're better. That's the key thing. Marcus Vandenberg, his numbers right now, 3.88 goals against average, 878 save percentage. His save percentage a little bit above Nate Krawchuk, but still the goaltending has been a question mark this season, along with the defense, hence why Drake Berehowski was brought in. Shifting our focus to Mississauga, Luke Misa led the way in scoring, 26 goals, 55 assists, 81 points. He has been a very creative player up front. Luke Misa, a lot of fun to watch out on the ice. Number 2, Porter Martone, 33 goals, 38 assists, good for 71 points. He was a huge pickup at the trade deadline last year from Sarnia, and that trade really paying off. Martone, though, missed some time due to an injury he suffered against the Windsor Spitfires a couple weeks ago. He was back in the lineup going into the final weeks, so that's good news. And then you've got Angus McDonnell, another key piece for Mississauga up front. 32 goals, 30 assists, good for 62 points. And then you've got the captain, Chaz Sharp, 19 goals, 34 assists, 53 points. I really like the play of Chaz Sharp. He's kind of been keeping that pace going with this Mississauga team. I did a video talking about their 10-game point streak they were on last week, and you could tell that he was leading the charge. He had the most points on this team over that run. So Chaz Sharp, great there on the back end and contributing with the offense. And then number 5 on points for Mississauga, Dean Locust, 17 goals, 31 assists, good for 48 points. He was acquired from Saginaw at the OHL trade deadline as he was the overager that was let go because Saginaw bringing all these pieces as they're going for the Memorial Cup as the host. And Dean Locust fitting in nicely with Mississauga. Goaltending, though, is fascinating for the Steelheads. They have 2 top quality goaltenders. Jack Ivankovic, he's got the better numbers at 2.72 goals against, 915 save percentage. He's been great in his rookie season. And then you've got Ryerson Leanders, 3.12 goals against average, 909 save percentage. Mississauga could put either goaltender in there, and I don't think you'd be nervous. You could go Ivankovic game 1, Leanders game 2, and just go back and forth. They've been that good this season. And that could be the difference in this series is which goaltenders for Sudbury or Mississauga is going to step up. And I do like looking at the past meetings between the two teams. The last time they met in the playoffs was back in 2019. And the Sudbury Wolves, they completed the series sweep of Mississauga. And that was in the first round of the playoffs. Quentin Byfield was on that team. I actually got to go to, I think it was game 1 of that series between Sudbury and Mississauga, and the Wolves just dominated. This time around, very different. I would not be surprised if it's a high-scoring series, very physical, and this could go the distance. This could be a game 7 that decides it between the Sudbury Wolves and the Mississauga Steelheads. But that's how the numbers are shaping up. The series starts Thursday night at the Paramount Fine Food Center in Mississauga. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this series. Who are you picking to win and in how many games? Love to see the interactions, and I'll be posting more playoff preview videos over the coming days as we get ready for the postseason as it gets underway on Thursday. So again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.